A very good morning to you, fellow citizens. I am a bearer of warm greetings from the TONSE Alliance Chairman, His Excellency Dr. Edgar Chagwalungu, who extends his profound greetings to you, the Zambian people. This morning, we, the TONSE Alliance, thought of engaging you, the masses, on a number of pertinent national issues which we felt are necessary for us to talk about. There are 5 key issues that we're going to address this morning, starting with the first issue, which is the issue of the threats that were issued yesterday to foreign diplomats in general, as well as the U.S. ambassador to Zambia in particular, by 3 cabinet ministers who are the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Honorable Haimbe, the Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security, Honorable Jack Mwimbo, as well as the Minister for Health, Honorable Elijah Muchima. These threats are a very big dent on Zambia's diplomatic status, and we saw it necessary to address that issue. The second key issue that we are going to address this morning is the issue of the theft of medicines which are donated to this country by not only the U.S. government, but by various other foreign governments and institutions. So that is the second issue. And then we have the third issue, which is the issue of the recent shooting which happened in Chapata of Eastern Province at Chapata Market, involving the ruling UPND provincial chairman for security, where he discharged a firearm and shot and wounded 2 individuals over an alleged traffic altercation. Now, this is also a very important issue that we felt we need to talk about because it borders on the issue of the security of the nation, as well as the issue of arming party cadres, giving firearms to party cadres in the UPND. The fourth issue that we are going to discuss this morning, fellow countrymen and women, is the issue of the cost of living. The issue of the cost of living is a key issue because it affects all of us. Whether you participate in political activities of the nation or you don't participate, you keep quiet and mind your own business, the issue of the cost of living will find you, will locate you, and will deal with you wherever you are. So the issue of the cost of living is a critical issue that we in the TONSE Alliance felt necessary to address this morning. And then the 5th and final issue that we are going to talk about this morning is the issue of why a TONSE Alliance government is the best government that the Zambian people can have next year after the general elections on the 13th of August. So that is the 5th issue. That said, countrymen and women, allow me to delve into the first issue. Like I indicated earlier, I'm a bearer of very warm greetings from our TONSE Alliance Chairman, His Excellency, the 60th Republican President, Dr. Edgar Chagwalungu, who is still resting in South Africa. You must remember that our chairman had not gone for a vacation for a prolonged period of time. He was prevented from leaving the country. So he has also taken the opportunity to have some fresh air in South Africa, just freshen up a bit and relax a bit before he comes back into a heated political season. As you are aware, next year is elections. So he wants to ensure that he is fully rested before he comes back to our country. But he is always with us, both in spirit and in wage. And he instructed that I render those warm greetings to you, the Zambian people. Coming to the first key issue, which is the threats issued by three government ministers to foreign diplomats in general, and the U.S. ambassador to Zambia in particular. Our position as TONSE Alliance is that those threats are totally unfounded, and they constitute a very big dent in terms of Zambia's image abroad. You must remember, countrymen and women, that the goodwill which Zambia as a country enjoys today is something that has been built over time through painstaking efforts, starting from the time that President Kenneth Kaunda was president of the Republic of Zambia. He went out of his way to assist the neighbors. He went out of his way to ensure that he does not get involved in the divisions that were there in the world. And Zambia was one of the notable non-aligned countries. We were neither aligned to the West or to the East. And that earned Zambia a lot of respect by both the West, the Western countries, as well as the Eastern countries. And the follow-up leadership that has presided over the affairs of this nation have ensured that Zambia's status as a respectable democratic nation have been preserved. Now, when we have a situation such as the one we are facing, where government sees it fit to issue warnings to foreign diplomats merely for speaking out on issues related to their relations to the Zambian government, then we have a problem, because that has the potential to dent Zambia's good standing in the eyes of the international community. And some of you might ask to say, why is it important or necessary for Zambia as a nation to have a good standing in the eyes of the international community? Countrymen and women, we live in a global village. And when you have a good standing in the eyes of the international community, it means that you are able to attract foreign direct investment. For starters, people will be able to come and invest in this country. And also, when we, the Zambian people, travel out of the country, we go to foreign countries bearing a Zambian passport, there is a certain notion attached to every passport. So when you carry that Zambian passport, someone looks at it out there in the international community and they realize you are from Zambia and they hold Zambia in high regard, then you'll be treated with respect. If they perceive Zambia as a banana republic, then you're going to be harassed, you're going to be searched, you're going to be suspected. So it is very important, countrymen and women, that the respectability that our country has had in the eyes of the international community, the rule of law that we have stood by, and the beacon of democracy that we have stood by are preserved. And that is the reason why the statement by the three ministers yesterday is something that should attract condemnation from all right-thinking Zambians. So the question then that might arise is, why were those threats wrong? Why was it a wrong thing for government to issue those threats to the U.S. ambassador as well as other ambassadors? It was wrong because when you look at the statement that came from the U.S. ambassador, he was merely speaking about the decisions made by his country which affects the masses. And that decision cannot be kept a secret. It cannot be discussed in closed doors because it affects the Zambian people. It would be wrong for purposes of the image of the U.S. government, which is the one donating the drugs, that people would suddenly see that the drugs are no longer available in hospitals. The drugs are not available in clinics. People would think that the U.S. government has just decided to cut funding for those medicines without any good reason. So it was important for purposes of transparency and accountability that the U.S. government, through its ambassador to Zambia, Ambassador Gonzalez, communicated to not only the government in closed-door meetings, but also to the beneficiaries of those medicines, who are the Zambian people, in terms of why the Zambian people will notice that there are no more medicines in hospitals, why the people will see that the funding for those medicines has been cut, the reasoning behind it. And the ambassador ably gave the background to the issue by clearly outlining to say him and his team have actually conducted a total of 33 separate meetings. Now, countrymen and women, 33 meetings with the senior government officials at permanent secretary level or higher is a lot of engagement. And if any institution, organization, or state made a decision after engaging the other parties 33 times on 33 separate occasions, surely no one can come and blame that particular organization, institution, or nation on the decision they've made for lack of being consultative, because 33 separate engagements are a lot of engagements in any context you look at it. Therefore, given that background, and given the fact that the U.S. government, through the U.S. Embassy here, had engaged government as early as April of last year, which is more than a year ago, giving them the evidence of theft of the donated medicines and asking them to act. Not only act through the arrest of low-level dealers of those medicines, no, but also take collective effort and make arrests in terms of the high-level individuals who are culpable in this entire saga. And for an entire year, government has not done anything in terms of ensuring that the high level and a good portion of the mid-level culprits are actually dealt with. So we can see clearly that the chain of events leading up to the suspension of the donations of medicine is something that is grounded in the government's failure and lack of appetite to deal with the culprits of the theft of these medicines. And the question arises to say, who are these culprits? And why are they enjoying protection from the UPND government? Why are they being protected? Because we have seen that the UPND government is very, very quick to make arrests and take people to court and prosecute them and take them to prison when those individuals are actually political opponents. So what is causing this inertia on the part of the UPND government to deal with the senior culprits who are stealing the medications? Those are the questions that we need to answer, because it is very important as it affects the majority of the Zambian people who are the beneficiaries of these medicines. So that is the second issue. Which brings us to the third issue, the Chapata shooting incident. Countrymen and women, Zambia is a nation that has always thrived on peace and security. We have been very grateful to ourselves and to the leadership that has presided over the nation in previous years by maintaining peace and order across the entire nation. We are not as unfortunate as our other neighbors, a good number of our other neighbors who suffered a lot of instability. We had surrounding countries such as Angola, which suffered instability and internal strife for a prolonged period of time. And we had countries such as Mozambique, which also suffered strife and instability for a prolonged period of time. And we also have countries such as the Democratic Republic of Congo, which was previously known as Zaire, which suffered and continues to suffer internal strife and instability up to today. And now we have ourselves, as the Republic of Zambia, who have enjoyed peace, law, and order since our independence. Now we have these incidents whereby a senior member of the UPND party, someone we are told is the provincial chairman for security, being involved in a shooting incident in Chapata district. According to the statement by the police, we are told that this individual by the name of Mbazima is alleged to have been involved in a traffic altercation with one of the individuals at Chapata market. Allegedly, we hear that this individual was overspeeding at a crowded market. And when he was challenged by one of the marketeers to say, you cannot drive your vehicle like that, this UPND official decided to draw a firearm, a handgun, and proceeded to discharge that firearm, injuring 2 people who are currently hospitalized at Chapata Central Hospital. Now, this is an issue of great concern to us for a number of reasons. Number one, this person is not just an ordinary thug. This is a person who is a senior member of the UPND party at provincial level, and their actions show total disregard for human life. Because if you are going to discharge a firearm at a crowded place such as a market, the bullet can strike anybody and it can kill anybody. And so anyone who discharges a firearm at a crowded place, it has no regard for human life. Now, remember, gentlemen and women, that we are currently preparing for the Rumezi parliamentary by-election, which is going to be held in the course of June, and the nominations will take place in about 2 weeks' time, on the 27th of May. And this shooting incident happens in Chapata, which is just a stone's throw from Rumezi, by a UPND cadre. So the question that arises is, are the UPND trying to send us in the opposition a message that when we go to Rumezi, we are going to face armed conflict and armed confrontation from the UPND? Is that what the UPND are trying to tell us through the shooting incident that happened at Chapata market, involving their provincial chairman for security, Mr. Mbazima? Is that what they are telling us? If that is what they are telling us, then what is the UPND government's position in terms of the safety and security of our citizens? How does the government intend to ensure that we, the Zambian people, remain safe as we undertake the campaigns in Rumezi, if their cadres are armed with firearms, and not only armed with firearms, because a lot of people can have firearms, but what also matters is the appetite of an individual to actually use a firearm in a wanton and discriminate manner, such as was exhibited by the UPND provincial chairman for security at Chapata market in Chapata a few days ago. So what we were able to see there, countrymen and women, is not only a senior UPND cadre wielding a firearm, but a senior UPND cadre wielding a firearm and being ready and willing to use it in an indiscriminate manner. Because if a senior UPND cadre, such as the provincial chairman for security, is willing and able to shoot at innocent marketeers at Chapata market in Chapata, then what will stop him from shooting at the opposition in Rumezi when he meets the opposition doing their campaigns there? That's the question we want to pose to the UPND government, to say, do you want to reduce these by-elections into an armed conflict? Is that what you intend to do? Because what we expected from the UPND government and from the UPND party through their Secretary General is that as soon as Mr. Mbazima was arrested by the police, we expected total condemnation from their party, and we expected them to disown their provincial chairman for security and say the behavior of our provincial chairman for security is something that we do not approve of. That is what we expected the UPND to do, but they haven't done that up to now. They have kept quiet. So if your senior party member behaves in such a wanton manner, goes to a market and starts shooting with his handgun indiscriminately, injures innocent people, and you as a political party, you don't condemn that individual, you don't isolate and say that is not reflective of what we stand for as a party, then what does it mean to the masses? It simply means that you endorse and you approve of the behavior of your senior party cadre, who happens to be your provincial chairman for security. So for us as opposition, we want to challenge the UPND, as we hereby do, to clearly tell the Zambian people whether it is their intention to reduce these upcoming parliamentary and other by-elections into an armed conflict. And if that is their wish, then we want them to tell the Zambian people how they will ensure the safety and security of innocent citizens who live in these areas where the by-elections are taking place. If it is not their intention to reduce these upcoming by-elections into an armed conflict, then we want them to come out clearly and condemn their provincial chairman who went to Chapata market and started behaving in a wanton manner, started shooting innocent citizens in an indiscriminate manner. We want a strong condemnation, not only from the chief executive of the UPND party, but also from the president of the UPND party himself, who happens to be the Republican president, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. We want to hear a strong condemnation of the behavior of their cadre at Chapata market a few days ago. Countrymen and women, allow me to move to the fourth item on our agenda this morning, which is the issue of the cost of living. Countrymen and women, the issue of the cost of living is something that affects each one of us because we all have to live. We all have to eat. We all have to feed our families. And when you look at the most accurate measure of the cost of living, which is currently in existence, which is the JCTR, the Jesuit Center for Theological Reflection, Basic Nutritional Needs Basket, you see that that measure actually looks at feeding a family of 5 in Osaka. And that index has actually moved from about 5,200 kwacha when the UPND took over office in August of 2021 to where we are today, which is April of 2025. It has now come to a figure of 11,950 kwacha. So you can see that there is more than a doubling in terms of the cost of living over the 4 years that the UPND party has been in office. And the question that arises is, how many people's incomes within this period have actually doubled? How many salaries, in terms of those who actually have a formal job, how many salaries have actually increased by 100%? When you hear salaries being increased by government for civil servants, you hear increments of 5%, 6%. So if those are the increments, over 4 years, you find that civil servant salaries would only have risen by an average of 20%, whereas the cost of living would have risen by more than 100%. So the question is, how are the people, the citizens, the civil servants, and other workers, and even those who are unemployed, expected to survive if the cost of living keeps going up? And the worst part of it, countrymen and women, is that we do not seem to have a tangible plan of action from the UPND government to say, this is how we intend to reduce the cost of living. This is how we intend to create more employment. This is how we intend to turn around the economy. When the UPND just came into office, they told us that the key to their turning around the economy was clinching the International Monetary Fund bailout package. And although that one, they struggled a little bit, eventually they got the bailout package after about a year of negotiations. But we saw that nothing changed, despite the IMF bailout package coming through. And then we've received promises after promises after promises from the UPND party. If you go in the streets and you ask anybody and say, do you have any hope that your life will improve in the next 2 to 5 years? The answer will almost definitely be 100% no, because the Zambian people don't have hope. Their government has not given them any hope in terms of turning around the economy and improving their standard of living, reducing the cost of living. So there is a lot of doom. There's a large cloud of doom which is hanging over the people. People feel hopeless. People feel helpless. People feel doomed in terms of their financial standing, in terms of how their personal economies are operating. And we as a nation, countrymen and women, we as a nation cannot and should not continue on such a path. It is well and good to go through suffering. But if you are going through suffering and there's light at the end of a tunnel, then you have the courage to endure the current economic suffering because you know that it will only be for a brief period of time. But if you are going through economic hardships and there's no light at the end of a tunnel, then you feel doomed. We feel doomed. And we, the Zambian people, given all the resources we have in this nation, should not feel doomed. We should not feel doomed. So the question that arises is, what is the missing link? Why are we in such a bad economic shape? Why are other countries which have fewer natural resources doing far much better than ourselves? And the answer, countrymen and women, to that question is because of the issue of leadership. We have a leadership that is incapable. We have a leadership that is incompetent. We have a leadership that has got no, desire to improve the well-being of the majority of the Zambian people. Their only interest is to improve their individual well-being. Their only interest is to accumulate as much personal wealth as possible. Their only interest is to accumulate as much personal wealth for their relatives and friends and party colleagues as possible, to the detriment and exclusion of the Zambian people. And countrymen and women, we should not and cannot continue on that path. There is need for us, the Zambian people, to choose a new and better set of leaders for ourselves. Leaders who will be able to inspire hope to us, so that even if the people are undergoing a brief period of economic hardship, they should be able to see the light at the end of a tunnel. They should be able to say, once we go through this short phase of a year or 6 months, better things are going to come. We cannot continue to live in the current economic environment, which spells doom for almost each one of us, unless you are affiliated to the government of the day. That said, countrymen and women, allow me to move to the fifth and final item on our agenda this morning, which is the issue of why the TONSE Alliance government would be the best suited government to run the affairs of this country. Countrymen and women, the issue of choosing an appropriate government to run the affairs of a nation is a very difficult decision, not only to you as the Zambian people, but to all other citizens out there. You've seen that people have given a strong mandate to a particular government which would have won by a landslide. That government goes into office. 2 months, 3 months along the line, people are completely disgruntled by the government that they had overwhelmingly voted into office for. And when you go and interview those people, not only in Zambia, but the world across, when you go and interview those people, they'll tell you to say, we had very high expectations of this government that we ushered into office, but now that it is into office, we are totally disappointed. So what we are experiencing here in Zambia, whereby on the 12th of August 2021, we ushered into office the UPND government headed by Mr. Hakainde Hichilema as Republican president, overwhelmingly under the expectation that they will turn around the fortunes of this country, under the expectation that they will turn around our economy, and that we are going to be getting food trolleys when we go and shop in ShopRite, that we are going to have jobs, that we are going to have industries spring up, we are going to have infrastructure development. These were the economic expectations that the Zambian people had when they voted into office President Hakainde Hichilema and his UPND party. We also expected that he is going to ensure a fair application of the rule of law, that a UPND cadre who misbehaves will be treated the same as an opposition cadre who misbehaves, and that the law will not be tilted against the opposition, and that UPND cadres will be allowed to even insult a former head of state and call him all sorts of ways, and they will not be arrested or prosecuted. And on the other hand, when an opposition just coughs, then the cyber law will apply on that individual. We've got colleagues such as Honorable Munia Zuru, who is currently imprisoned. We've got colleagues such as the Mfue Member of Parliament, Honorable Maureen Mavonga, who is expecting a judgment because of exercising her constitutionally given right to free speech. And yet we have people who have issued hate speech against the Bishop of Lusaka. We've got individuals in the UPND who have issued hate speech against the people of Wapula, but those are not pursued. And then you've got individuals such as Waimi who are being pursued relentlessly because of expressing themselves in a strong language. So we clearly have double standards. And if a survey was done today, I strongly believe that the majority of the Zambian people would agree that what the UPND government has delivered to the Zambian people is totally below the expectations of what the Zambian people expected to get from the UPND government. And so there is no question in the minds of an average Zambian, in the minds of any responsible and any reasonable Zambian, that come next year we need to change government. But then the question that arises is, change government from UPND to whom? Change government from UPND to whom and why? Because remember, countrymen and women, that we are coming from a background whereby a government which looked so good on paper, which is the UPND government, they proceeded to totally misbehave once they were put into office. So what guarantee would the Zambian people have that if they put that person or that grouping, they will deliver to their expectation and not become another disappointment the way the UPND turned out to be a disappointment? What guarantee is there? Well, allow me to explain why I personally strongly believe that the TONSE Alliance presents a unique combination of the skills, competences, and character which is required to properly run the affairs of this country. You must understand, countrymen and women, that the principle on which the TONSE Alliance was founded is that we have, on one hand, which constitutes about half of the TONSE Alliance, the Patriotic Front Party, which is a former ruling party. And then on the other half, we have the leaders of other political parties, including our vice chairman, Professor Dan Pure, who is the party president for Christian Democratic Party, including myself, Sean Tembo, who is the leader of the Patriots for Economic Progress, including colleagues such as Mr. Peter Chanda, who is the president of the New Congress Party, colleagues such as President Wright Musoma, who is the president for the Zambia Republican Party, and so on and so forth. So this combination, countrymen and women, we have